So in this picture here, what I really want to show you is over to the distance where you can see the mountains. All these areas were one time covered with banana fields and banana plantations. And people are still continuing to frustrate the small number of farmers that we have. The farmers have enough bananas to cut, to harvest, and they give them less of a quota than they can actually harvest. People are just frustrating these few farmers that we have left in these places. Now everyone recall in the last elections they promised the farmers that they were going to obtain a market for them in France to sell the bananas to France. That has not been done and a lot of the farmers are frustrated. People are planting bananas and they cannot sell them. Now people remember that the Taiwanese government constructed an abattoir in Vieux-Fort. That abattoir was demolished and I heard that they're going to be constructing a new abattoir in the area where you can see that galvanized building over there. All I'm saying is there are a lot of people in the community who do not work or who do not have work. Give preference and priority for the people who live in the area to work in that abattoir. Preference and priority must be given to the people in the community because there was a concrete road that was constructed and people from all Vieux-Fort and the south were the only ones working on that road in La Richose. Give people from the area the priority to work at that abattoir if it is going to be done here in the valley. Now this is a bench, a block that the guys use to chill out and cool out after a hard day's work. But in some places during the daytime there are young guys who are sitting on benches like these and are not working anywhere. That need to stop in the country. You can't have young people sitting down all day on a bench or on a block, just sitting on in an area for a whole day smoking and doing foolishness in a country. That ain't supposed to happen. That need to stop in the country. We can't have benches of people all day when there is work to be done in the country and you have people sitting down on a block. These things have to stop. I'm trying to figure out how people could leave their homes, go by the market to sell this good quality food, and then go to a supermarket to buy food that is not even good for them. I just do not understand. You see these distant mountains over there? All of these hills, or a great portion of them, was cultivated with bananas. And I just miss those times when every week in the valley somebody was buying a four-wheel drive vehicle. I just miss those days. And I wonder what can we do to get back to this point, to these days? What can we plant? What can we cultivate in order to reach a point where there is enough money that at least somebody can purchase a vehicle every week in the valley like we used to before? Yeah, this is just a distant view of the Olia Combined School. You see how nice this house looks nested in between those trees? These trees provide tremendous benefits for people that live in this house. It keeps the place cool. It increases the amount of oxygen that the people have around to breathe. It's like a trap for carbon dioxide. You know, it is just these trees can actually protect the house from strong winds. So there are a lot of benefits to having trees around. That's why I do not understand why people just cut trees. And couper bois, just for no reason. You just cut the trees for no reason. We need to understand that the trees have their role to play in the environment. Now it is so refreshing to see these local fowls because we have a situation now where people are trying to get rid of all the indigenous and the local things that we have and getting things from overseas. Now these fowls we have there, they are more resistant to a lot of disease. These are the things that we have that we bring in from overseas. You have to be giving those things a lot of antibiotics for them things to do well. We need to try to keep the things that we have. A lot of these birds and these other things that people bringing in from overseas, they modify the genes of those things At the end of the day, you do not really know what you have and how these things can affect people in the long run. I do not understand how people in this country like other things like that. The things that we have indigenous to us, we need to keep them and we need to multiply them. We need to preserve them. We cannot be bringing these things from overseas. Now, these mangoes were planted by Denry Farmco. They planted them as windbreaks and to like as a fruit to export or whatever. But what happened is the people nowadays have cut a good portion of them. And sometimes what we have is a situation where during hurricanes the winds are coming stronger than they're supposed to be, and we do not have any windbreaks. It is amazing that long ago, Denry Farmco time, the people had irrigation systems on all these banana farms in the valley. And even to this modern era, there is no really do not understand what really people are doing now. It is almost like we're going back. We're going back in time. We're going back. Whereas we're supposed to be going forward, we are regressing. Now observe this banana farm. Observe how close it is to the road. And this farmer here was doing an excellent job in cultivating this thing. But somehow he managed to get frustrated. And is actually going to get rid of these bananas, I heard, and get into some vegetable crop or some other thing. Now, this attests to the situation in this country where the government or whoever it is, the banana companies are continually frustrating these farmers. In a situation where we have very few banana farmers, we should be preserving those guys and really trying our best to ensure that they continue in the industry. The people are frustrating these farmers. So most of these people are trying to get out of this business. The other thing is the people were told that they were going to get a market to export bananas to France, and that never happened. Okay, this is pigeon peas, what we call poingol. Why is it that we importing so much of this thing from overseas? Now, if you go to any of these supermarkets, these big supermarkets, these major supermarkets, you will see pigeon peas, packaged pigeon peas, and this is something that can easily be grown in this country. There are places where people have that by their homes. Why is it that this thing is being imported? These are things that people are supposed to be doing to sell by the market and to other places. Then people say that there is no work, there is this, there is that. Sometimes people have to provide their own employment. That is something that somebody can do to make a living for themselves. We do not need to be importing pigeon peas in this country. Okay, what we have here, what you see here is a place where a fish pond was. And so we had a situation where the Minister of Agriculture, Ezekiel Joseph, they were on that thing where they were having people to go and construct fish ponds, and they were trying to encourage that kind of industry in the country. But look what happened now. You have so many places where you just have these ponds, these empty ponds, and people spend a lot of money paying excavation um, for these things. And so what we can learn from that is when you see that these governments do not have an agricultural policy, you cannot listen to them when they ask you to get into the production of anything. Look, they asked the farmers to get into production of bananas because they said that they were going to get a market from France, a market in France to export bananas, and that never materialized. You see, when these governments, regardless of UWP, SLP, or whatever, none of these political parties have an agenda or plan or policy for agriculture in the country. They just talk. So at the end of the day, you cannot invest your money into any agricultural project based on what these ministers of agriculture will tell you in St. Lucia. You have to see if it is a feasible business for you and you go based on what you think can work for you. But these people have shown, both UWP and SLP, the ministers of agriculture have shown that you cannot listen to them because they do not have, none of them have ever had a policy for agriculture in this country. The only person I saw that was ever serious about agriculture in this country was John Compton, and that's it. Yeah, just watching this Rasta man walk on the road remind me of a situation where a long time ago they used to brutalize and arrest these Rasta men for planting and growing and using marijuana. They used to shoot them even for those same thing for the cultivation of marijuana. But we're finding out that some of the same policemen that were shooting the rastas had people from the very community planting weed for them at that very time. So you see the situation, you see how it works in the country. The same guys who were busy shooting the rastas for marijuana had people in the community planting weed for them. Now for this picture, I'm just begging the people in the community who use karate in the river to stop doing that. There are some guys who buy karate. Karate is that insecticide that they use for plants. What they will do is they will take this thing, buy it, and drop it in the river, and then they will run and like they will just start picking up crayfish because it will incapacitate the fish and the crayfish, whatever it gets in its way. Now, some people actually do that to get crayfish to sell for people during Creole Day. So people need to be very careful what they eat. You need to know who is getting this crayfish and those things for you. But people need to stop using these poisons in the water. Stop using karate in the river to catch crayfish. Now, this is the Lapel Road, and it has been in a very bad situation for many, many years. And it is just a nice thing and a nice feeling to see that some people from the community were able to drop this material there and spread it themselves. It is just an amazing thing to see that people can just decide to do them things by themselves. And not everybody is just depending on the government because no government person live there. It is the people from the community who go there, the children who have to pass through these roads every day. And so I really commend the people in the area for taking the initiative to do that. Big respect to them. So a long time ago, when you had a bellyache, they would ask you to eat the young leaves from the guava plant, and this thing used to work. And I wonder if people actually use that now. And these are the things that we need to go back to. Really, we really need to go back to those things. You know, one of the things that can really help the economy of this country is if we have some kind of a boat that will take agricultural produce to countries in the north that really need them or do not produce enough of those things. You have places like St. Martin and Antigua and even other countries, St. Croix and others, that really where there is a demand for the agricultural produce. And if we had a boat like that to transport our stuff, it would make a big difference in the economy. It can happen because it is happening in with St. Vincent. St. Vincent has two of these boats that go to St. Martin every week. I actually went to St. Martin one time and I actually was on one of these boats. I went to see what was going on. So if St. Vincent can do it, we can do it too. So what we have is a situation where I noticed that some of the animals are being burnt, and it looked like people are burning some of the animals with hot water. But the Bible said that good people, a good person, will take care of their animals and will take care of animals. It is a very bad thing to be treating these animals that way because a lot of times when they start treating the animals like that, they end up doing the same thing to human beings too. So people, we have to be very careful. And when you see people doing those things to animals, you must stop them. It is very bad because these animals feel just like human beings. It is just wrong to do those things to the animals. So watch again, the same thing they did to that dog. There is some people who are just going around and just doing cruelty to the animals and that thing have to stop. These animals feel just like human beings and people can't just be moving around just burning the animals or just harming them. That is wrong. One last time, one more time. These animals like these dogs, they have been the companion of human beings for a long time. From the time these animals were domesticated. And these animals are very, very helpful to us, and we need to be protecting them. Stop burning the animals, stop harming the animals, stop doing damage to the animals. It is when people do things like that, they cause the government to bring in all kinds of harsh laws and things like that. You do not need any laws for you to know that you cannot do harm to the animals. The animals are there to serve you. Do not harm the animals. So what we have is a situation where we have a lot of inbreeding taking place with the goats. So people just have the goats, they let the child breed the mother, they let the mother breed the child. And so what you have at the end of the day, you have a lot of small goats. And it doesn't really make sense to have these goats pulling the ropes and feeding them for all these years and they will not really gain enough weight. Because when you have this goat, you want meat to eat. So you cannot have the mother mating their own child and things like that. You need to mix the bloodline. And so people need to find a way to separate the males from the female to prevent this all these small little goats that we have in the place. Okay, so when you look at just the coat of that goat, you can just see that this goat has worms because the coat is too rough. The coat of a goat is supposed to be smooth and it's supposed to be shiny. So there are dewormers that you can buy, you can get to deworm the goats and to deworm the animals. But from the coat, you can see that this goat, it is infested with worms. So we need to take better care of these animals. So we have a situation where you still have people living our local Latanier brooms and buying this cheap Chinese broom. That Latanier broom, it could last you many, many years. Whereas these Chinese brooms, they will not last you a few months. And so sometimes you can see that people just have a propensity to just want to have foreign things. And there is no way that this Chinese broom can come close to your Latanier broom. Support your own. It is people from your own community that do these things. When you buy these Chinese brooms, these things do not last and all these monies go foreign. So just support your local people. The brooms are better, they're stronger, and you're keeping the money in the economy. These juices that you buy for your children or for yourselves, do you know the names of the chemicals that they put in them? Can you pronounce the chemicals that they put in these juices that you like so much? Is it because that you abandon the farms and all the grapefruit and the oranges die that you have to buy all of these things, that some of these things are not good for you? People will need to go back to making our local juices. You cannot be giving those things to children every day and every time like that. We need to go back to our local juices, our local juice. You cannot have them little children having diabetes and those things. We need to go back to our orange juice, our lime juice, our sour sub juice, our sour orange juice. We need to go back to our things. Okay, people. We got independence from 1979. To this point, why is it that almost every major junction you find in this country, there is no sign telling you where these roads go to? This junction here, one road goes to Oleon side, one goes to Lapel, one goes to Denerier side, and the other one goes to the main highway that goes to Castries. Now somebody from some other place coming here, they have no idea where to go to. You cannot be asking people for instructions everywhere you want to go in St. Lucia. St. Lucia got independence in 1979. By now, there should be road sign on these roads. There should be signs on these roads telling you where these things are going to. People die because of no signs. We need to get serious about doing these things well in this country. How can you have roads without signs? Okay, we need to stop importing all of these onions in this country. Onions can grow here. They grow onions in Barbados and other places. We can grow onions here. That need to stop. We cannot be importing so many onions, whereas we can do that here. Okay, these are two pairs that a friend of mine bought for me today by the Castries market for $11. Now observe I put a $20 bill under this thing so that we can have an idea as to the size of these things. These two pairs are very small. This thing did not have to be transported here on a plane or on a boat for two of these small pairs to be costing $11. These people at the Castries market need to be careful because these are the things that cause poor people to get poorer. These are the things. When you have simple commodities selling for so much money, you can go to a supermarket and get those things cheaper. That is overkill. You cannot sell two small pears at the Castries market for $11. That is wrong.